Okay, we're back for FSPDE Lecture 8 on Sustainability and Product Design. Looking at some of the developments, some of the basic issues and some of the developments, including blockchain. A good question. Many possible definitions are possible, it says in my notes. The UFIC has a good resource on it, and that's a good definition, I think. So you can also link through to the information from our government as well as part of their Foresight programme. Both well worth having a look at. Here's some of the potential benefits from developing a genuinely sustainable system. Although they're important, they're probably outside the broad thrust of this lecture, and I'm sure you're aware of many of them already. If you want to have a read, just pause the video as usual. Okay, so drivers of need for sustainable food. World population is growing. Although population growth is expected to level off by the end of this century, during it population will have risen from around 6 billion to nearly 11 billion. So getting on for doubling in 100 years. If you're interested in this, as we've seen before, Population Pyramid Net is a very good link for population-related issues. World set to becoming more middle class. What this means is the world is becoming steadily richer and people are aspiring to a better lifestyle. One example of this is the growth in meat consumption, which we can see for a few countries there. In some countries, I guess, meat consumption is declining, such as the UK. In 1991, Kocturk-Runefors proposed a model for examining dietary changes, what is sometimes called a dietary transition. It happens to populations. Classic example is Italy going from what used to be described as a peasant diet to a more modern diet, which has seen, for example, a rise in childhood obesity. The model suggested here has been mostly applied to people migrating to a new country. We've certainly seen examples of this. I've got an MSc project doing doing a look at this at the moment. It's outside the scope of this module, but may be of interest to you and may be relevant to some final year projects. Land use is changing with population. We note the growth in agricultural land at the expense of forest and woodland, but there also are other ways of growing plants rather than just sticking in soil outside. Hydroponics, aquaponics, indoor farms, microagriculture, all have great potential. We notice globally is quite a big loss in forest and woodland. Farming is a big issue carbon-wise. It's responsible for 52% of UK carbon emissions, with transport, which obviously includes food as well, also contributing significantly in also what's called pre-farm production. I can't know if I remember what that is. I'm sure if you dig into DEFRA's statistics, it will tell you. We've discussed consumer drivers there in the module. Here are some drivers of sustainability. Many of you may have sustainability as one of your marketing strategies. If not, you may want to consider it. Have a look, as usual, in Mintel for more information. Sustainability is important to many consumers, by no means all, but it's a growing area of consideration for people marketing food. And developing sustainable approaches often saves businesses money in the medium to long term, even if it isn't necessarily obvious to consumers. And there's some examples there. Packaging is a growing consumer focus in terms of its sustainability. There's a lot of interest in packaging, including things like edible seaweed packaging, which we'll look at a little bit later on. Issues such as single-use plastic, for example, straws, have been much in the use. Edible straws seem like a good idea. E-commerce and the general growth of what we'll discuss later on, the growth of the Internet of Things, allows considerable focus on the individual and conversely can be used by consumers to seek out sustainable alternatives. And there's some examples there. Discuss supply chain management using tools like blockchain later in this particular lecture. This potentially allows a great deal of transparency in supply chain manufacturing and distribution. Potentially you could know where all the ingredients were sourced, how they were processed, how they were transported, what drivers of sustainability have been measured. Lots of things are potentially available in the future to the consumer and people doing high level management of supply chains. Okay, so I haven't had time to update this yet. These are Innova's predictions for this year, 2020. How well do you think they did? Obviously, everything was derailed to some extent by coronavirus, and the Innova suggestions for 2020 obviously are reflecting that. Sustainability is a big function with plant-based and so-called omni-channel eating prominent, whatever that is. We'll come to that in a second. As usual, if you're interested, go through the links. If you search for Innova in 2021, you'll find lots of links for a new car, which isn't particularly sustainable. So click directly through the links. I use the links in the notes. So omni-channel eating. On the downtrend are restaurants and fast foods. They always were, even before the coronavirus. And on the uptrend are meal kits and developing cooking skills. The progress of these trends obviously depends on a range of factors, but many restaurateurs are looking at how they can develop omni-channel business approaches. So have a look at this link if you're interested. As I mentioned, this was a trend that started quite a way before the current crisis. Okay, sustainability in food manufacturing. Sahin and Rami Fad have published a lot of papers in this area. They come from an engineering perspective and identify a number of key aspects of sustainable food as shown there. And many of the things are the sort of things we've sort of already discussed. You can click through to some information here if you're interested. But they've taken a sort of engineering approach. And as engineers are prone to do, they produce network analyses of the systems involved. This is interesting here, I guess, mostly for the outermost items thrown. So Internet of Things, personalised food, a couple of things are quite hot. Of course, food waste is a continual source of interest. This is a mind map of the issues they identified. Internet of Things. This is the concept of connecting any device to the internet and also to each other, the devices that is. This includes everything from phones, coffee makers, washing machines, headphones, lamps, wearable devices, and almost anything else you can think of. It has considerable potential in the management of food chains, again via tools such as blockchain, but it's perhaps being a little bit overhyped at the moment. Do we really need an internet-connected fridge? Not sure how useful that is. You can just look in the fridge and see what you need to buy. Okay, anyway, moving on to a different topic. Packaging for a longer shelf life. How are we doing for time? Yeah, I think we'll break the lecture here, and so we can break the video up into a couple of segments. I'll be back in a second.